Hi, I'm going to take you through the process of being able to play through the grade 1 piece West Coast Rollin. The first thing you need to be able to do is play a standard rock rhythm with a double bass drum beat. So if you look at the first bar of the piece West Coast Rolling, that rhythm happens 3 times and also in bars 4, 5 and 6. So it should go like this. Now that should be about the right speed, but if you use an app called the Metronome, which is easily downloadable, you could play along at the right speed. And at the start of the piece, it tells you that this piece is 95 beats per minute. So I'll set my metronome off now and play that rhythm to that speed, like this. So that way I know I'll be able to play at the right speed for the piece. We then need to start adding in some extra bits. So the 4th bar is based upon 4 bass drums. Fairly straightforward. But at the end, you've got the little cymbals which tell you to open and close the hi-hat. All you need to do that is move your feet up and down together. So that bar at the end will go bass up, bass. And put the 2 beats before that, bass tap, bass tap, bass. That up down technique is also used at the end of the first line and the end of the 3rd line. Again, it just goes up, down. Hit on the up and then open a hi-hat and down both feet together. The very first hit of the piece is not on the hi-hat, the X is marked higher. So that would be on the crash cymbal, like this. Moving on to the 4th line, it's the same rhythm as at the start, but there's a bass drum on the very last beat of the first bar as well. Should be fairly straightforward. Now the next bar starts the same as at the end of the 2nd line, so it starts with bass tap, bass tap. Now the fill on the snare drum is exactly the same rhythm. You could play it with the same hand if you wish. Instead of hitting the hi-hat, hit the snare drum and play. It's what I call the rhythm cherry cherry. Ideally, you should do it as alternate sticks, right, left, like this. So that bar will go. And that should conclude section A. So what I'm going to do now is play all section A with the click behind. 2, 3, 4. Now, moving on to section B, that's on the 2nd line up on page 1. Again, this will start with a crash cymbal, but the bulk of the bars for the next 4 lines start with 3 bass drums. You just need to be careful at the end of each bar. So the end of the first bar goes. The 2nd bar is what I call an all, because you're playing the bass drum and the snare drum and the hi-hat cymbal all together. So that will go all tap. The 3rd bar again finishes with snare bass. Now the last bar on page 1, you've got an open hi-hat technique. It's going to open on the 2nd hit, but this time it shuts with the snare drum. Bass up, snare, tap. So it's like a standard 4 beat, but you're opening on the 2nd hit. I'll do that again. Bass up, snare, tap. And then it's followed by bass tap, bass tap. So those 4 bars from section B go like this. That means we can now move on to the second page, which is the second half of section B. So it starts as we did at section B with a crash and bass drum together with the snare bass at the end. The second bar is fairly straightforward, standard double bass drum. Now, the second line, the third bar on page 2. It starts the same as the others with the 3 bass drums, but the last hit is an all, and then there's an 8th note or quaver note silence. There's nothing written. So it goes bass tap, bass tap, bass tap, all. Do not hit the 8th quaver. Now moving on to the fill at the end of that second line, it starts with the cherry on the snare drum like we did before, so that's right left, with the bass drum underneath. The second beat is the same rhythm, but instead of doing right left, it's bass to left hand. So you now get cherry, bass left, and then you've got a snare drum and a bass drum as crotchets or quarter notes. The flute I use for that rhythmically is plum, plum. So the rhythm spoken would be played as cherry, bass left, both, both. So I'm now going to play the 4 bars from the start of page 2. And now I'm going to put the click track on behind and play all of that section B. 2, 3, section B. Now we can move on to section C. And again, if you look at the music, it's quite similar, the first 3 bars again. But you've got to be careful of the 2 taps in the middle. There are 2 X's. This is the 4th and 5th quaver in the bar. The first X has nothing written beneath it. The second has a snare drum rest. It's what I call a squiggle. Just ignore it. So the start of that bar will go 2 taps on the hi-hat. It then finishes with bass snare bass. So if I put that together, bass tap snare tap tap bass snare bass. And that rhythm forms the next 3 bars. The first bar of section C again starts with a crash, and that third bar has the up-down technique that we did at the end of the first page where you're closing with the snare drum. So I'm going to play now 2 lines from section C. So if you notice at the end of that second line there was an open hi-hat. And that's moving on now, so it actually should get a bit easier. So the third line of section C, bass tap snare tap tap bass snare tap, and then you're on a standard rock rhythm. That takes us to the bottom line where we're back onto the same rhythm as at the start of section C, and that then leads us to the final ending, which is 6 crotchets or quarter notes, 4 of them on a loose hi-hat or open a hi-hat, and then 2 on the crash. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I play those last 2 lines of section C, what I'll do now, I'll play all of section C with a click, if it starts. Section C. So you need to practice those sections, and importantly, I suggest you look at the links between the sections. So for example, the last bar before B into B, and the bar before C and into C. But to finish off, I will now play that with the backing track, like this.
West Coast Rollin. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
And I'll just stop the music, and there you go. And this is one of those things where you should really pay attention, because I put a little slip into there as well now. I wonder if you can spot that. However, have fun practicing, and let's see if you can achieve that one. Thank you.